I wanna be with you. You're young and beautiful. A choice of two directions. I have no hope. We never follow instinct. We just don't understand a different situation. We've lost command. My heart's in limbo. Your heart's in limbo. You always share affection with everybody else. I think that you should learn to love yourself. The man that you love most, the man that brought you here, he's always in your memory. He's always near. My heart's in limbo. Your heart's in limbo. My heart's in limbo. Your heart's in limbo. My heart's in limbo. Your heart's in limbo.
Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I hope everybody's doing well. This is a special Willie Bragg Show today. I'm going to be discussing various stories and whatnot, and I'm hoping by the end of this show that I will reach the threshold and have over 1,000 subscribers. And if I don't, I get to hang out with y'all. So it's my night off, and that's what counts right now. And I do enjoy doing this. I got the energy right now for it and all that. And I'm celebrating too because I got the report from the doctor today. Got the blood work done, and everything checks. The only thing's wrong with me is the high blood pressure, low vitamin D, which he says some supplements would take care of that. But get the BMI in check, doing well with the weight loss. So not bad for somebody who's about to turn 57, I guess. So got a little bit of Guinness action here. You can't see the label too much, but cheers, everyone. I don't drink that much anymore, but I may partake a little bit tonight. So let's go ahead and with our greetings right now. So we'll start off with Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. How are you doing today? Happy Tuesday. Hey guys, how are you doing today? Great seeing you. Max Sarjay, welcome back. Well, cool. It's the Willie Bragg Show. Yep, I am glad to be here. We have, of course, he's on vacation, I guess you could say. Warren, how are you doing today? Of course, I know that you and Lainey will be doing the Undercurrent tomorrow, and I should be available. Got the doctor situation out of the way. I go back in March, so that's good. I don't have to worry about going to the doctor again for a little while. So, all right, let's see. And we have, who else here? We had Chuck, Intergalactic UFO Show. It's been a while, so great seeing you here as well. So, as I said, I'm going to try to get over 1,000. Now I'm going to tell you, excuse me. Sorry about that. Thing about getting over 1,000 subs, apparently it opens up a lot of new doors when that happens. And what happens is that your videos get recommended, and you get paid with the advertisers. Advertisers will pay and I think it's something along 4,000 hour. I mean, say what's it? 4,000 hours of viewing time, whatever. I think it's going to be a while before all that kicks in and everything, but it gets recommended to a wider audience, and that's what counts. And but I have to kind of keep the content going because consistency is what matters. And sometimes I get a little bit tired, and which is unfortunate for me, but I'm gonna have to get over that and just keep cranking out material and everything. I love doing it. I love live streaming, but problem is sometimes the work schedule, working graveyard shift, it takes a toll on you, and then there's shit you got to do in the daytime. And I'm planning to go back to the gym. Well, I have it scheduled. I don't want to call it a New Year's resolution, but I have it planned around New Year's to start consistently going back to the gym like I used to, and maybe before, but I have it planned that will be part of my routine by then. So keep a good thing going, and I would like to. My goal is to get down into my 190s. So right now I'm kind of in a slump. I haven't gained any weight, but I haven't really lost any weight either. But I blame the holidays. So there's been a little bit of temptation around me, just kind of all around you and everything. But anyhow, enough about my problems. When there's plenty of problems around the world. And that's where we in independent media comes in, because we're here to talk about the problems that the mainstream media doesn't talk about, or talk about it in a way that the mainstream media likes to the way that they cover it and the way that we cover it, it's two different paths. So I guess we should start off with the first story right now. Let me find that first story. And we'll talk about, there's a couple of names I like to refer to this asshole. Benjamin Netanyahu, Adolf Netanyahu, asshole, a pile of shit, the essence of evil, war criminal, just a rotten individual to the core. Benjamin Netanyahu, that is. And so you know about the massacre in Bondi, the Bondi massacre in Australia. I have to put a pause on the snacking for a moment. Bear with me. This is from The Guardian. And basically Benjamin Netanyahu blames Anthony Albanese, that's the Prime Minister of Australia, for Albanese beach terror attack as world leaders express horror. A fucking tragedy. And what does BB do? Blame the person instead of blaming the person that's mostly responsible for that, which is himself. But anyway. So, Israeli Prime Minister claims that the Australian government, quote, let the disease, unquote, of anti-Semitism spread, and the result is the horrific attack on Jews we saw today. When there are actual attacks of anti-Semitism taking place, it should be denounced, and wholeheartedly, any decent human being should do that. Being critical of Israel's actions is not anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Jewish or anything like that anymore than criticizing Saudi Arabia for their genocide against Yemenis years ago makes you anti-Muslim or even anti-Saudi Arabian. Let's go get that out of the way. So there we have it. Leaders around the world express their horror at Sunday's terrorist attack on Bondi Beach, which at least 16 people died, mixed in some cases with the harsh words for the Australian government for alleged shortcomings in tackling anti-Semitism over the past 2 years. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, said he had written to his Australian counterpart, Anthony Albanese, in August, warning that the government's decision to recognize a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire, emboldens those who menace Australian Jews, and encourages Jew hatred, now stalking your streets. He claimed Albanese had replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. No, he hasn't. And I doubt that Albanese is anti-Semitic, and saying you're for the two-state solution is not anti-Semitic. Hell, saying that a country that debatably should, whether it should even exist or not, is not anti-Semitic. There were ways to deal with reparations other than the creation of a new state in the Middle East after World War II. I have mentioned that before, but, having that said, your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread, and the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. Albanese declined to respond directly when asked about Netanyahu's comments at the media conference on Monday morning. Please don't do an Obama where Obama just kind of squirm away from Netanyahu. He needed somebody just needs to put him in his place and stand up to that asshole. But anyway, this is a moment of national unity, Albanese said in response. This is a moment for Australia to come together. That's precisely what we'll be doing. Netanyahu praised the actions of the bystander who wrestled the gun from the attacker, saying he saluted the Muslim brave man who prevented the death of innocent Jews. The man's religion was unconfirmed as of Monday morning. Which I will say this much. This puts an end to the myth by people on the right in the West. The section of the right that don't hate Jews, because most people on the right do hate Jews. The section on the right don't hate Jews, that claiming that, but hate Muslims, claiming that every single Muslim that exists in the world are anti-Semitic, which is not true. I mean, Albania, for example, which is predominantly Muslim, accepted Jewish refugees during World War II to protect them. So just want to have that stated as well, historically speaking. So anyway, but we are worrying right now about our people, our safety, and what we do not remain silent. Netanyahu says, we fight for those who try to annihilate us. The Israeli president, Isaac Herzog, said in the video message posted online that the violent terrorists deliberately targeted innocent Jewish families celebrating the first night of Hanukkah. The people of Israel stand together with all of you in a very dark and difficult moment. The Jewish people are strong, resilient, and united, and our message is clear that the Hanukkah lights must go on and will be lit over the world, especially at Bondi Beach in Sydney and all over Australia. The U.S. President Donald Trump said it was a terrible attack, an anti-Semitic attack, obviously. He said he wanted to pay his respect to everybody. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said that the U.S. strongly condemned the attack. Anti-Semitism has no place in the world. Our prayers are with the people and victims of this horrific attack, the Jewish community and the people of Australia. The former U.S. President Barack Obama said he and his wife, Michelle, were praying for the families and mourning victims of the attack. For everyone lighting the candle tonight, may the glow of the menorah brighten your darkest moments, he wrote on Twitter. I will not call it that one-letter word that jackass Elon Musk wants to rename it. I did name the fuck out of what it's called. It's Twitter all day long. Fuck Elon Musk. Okay, hold on. Sorry. The UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said that the news was deeply distressing. The United Kingdom said, I'm sorry, hold on. My mom told me not to eat with my mouth full, so let me repeat that. The UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said the news was deeply disturbing. The United Kingdom sends our thoughts and condolences to everyone affected by the appalling attacks in Bondi Beach. King Charles said he and Camilla were appalled and saddened by the most of the dreadful anti-Semitic and terrorist attack. Our hearts go out to everyone who has been affected so dreadfully, including the police officers who were injured while protecting members of their community. In times of hurt, Australians always rally together in unity and resolve I know that the spirit of the community and the love that shines so brightly in Australia and the lights at the heart of the Hanukkah Festival, I'm sorry, will always triumph over the darkness of such evil. The New Zealand Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, said he was shocked by and distressing scenes New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said he was shocked by the distressing scenes at Bondi, a place that Kiwis visit every day. My thoughts and the thoughts of all New Zealanders are with those affected. He said, Australia and New Zealand are closer than friends. We're family. The Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said Ukraine stands in solidarity with Australia in the face of the brutal attacks which targeted the Jewish community at the heart of Hanukkah. Terror and hatred must never prevail. They must be defeated everywhere and every time. Zelensky needs to do something about his little Nazi problem in his country. But, oh well. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres wrote on Twitter, I am horrified and condemn today the heinous, deadly attacks on Jewish families gathering in Sydney to celebrate Hanukkah. My heart is with the Jewish community worldwide on the first day of Hanukkah and the festival celebrating the miracle and the peace and light of the vanquishing darkness. So there you have it. That's the story and the scoop of what's going on with the Bondi shooting that took place and the aftermath regarding people who wants to go and do the blame game. Wouldn't it be nice if there's a tragedy? Well, it'd be nice if the tragedy didn't take place to begin with. But wouldn't it be nice if you could have a situation that if you had to have a tragedy, that people don't go and start pointing fingers and doing the blame game? Yeah, I expect no better from Netanyahu to go and do this sort of thing. Real classy. Yeah. So, such a dreadful man. Such a dreadful man. I look forward to. I look forward to the day he goes to New York and Mamdani, if he can, honor that one campaign promise of what he would do if Netanyahu sets foot in New York, which is apparently to arrest him. That I want to see more than anything else. I hope that. I know it won't happen, but it needs to happen. And there are several countries in Europe that would arrest him if he sets foot in there. So, and really, it's a moral duty of any society to arrest him. International Criminal Court declare him a war criminal. So he needs to go and he needs to be apprehended and arrested and sent to The Hague for war crimes. But suffice to say, we will go on to the next story. And this is from a channel. I've been watching it. It's kind of entertaining. So I will share it with you. Let's see if we can find that video. The way it's done here. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Name of this channel. Let me find that channel. Name of this channel is The Necessary Conversation. And I think it's the way it sounds like it's a son, and I think it's his wife. And his parents are like MAGA folks, but they're willing to have a dialogue. And there's the son and his wife are basically standard liberals. I get it, but the parents are basically your Kool-Aid drinking right wing MAGA, that the kind of folks that you just can't reason with. I mean, there are people who are Trump supporters that you can have a conversation with. I'm not saying that, but then you run across, unfortunately, more often this type of people that you just can't have a conversation with. No matter how reasonable you try to be, their minds are so closed, and there's so much in that cult, and their heads are so much up Trump's asshole. I mean, it's just, I mean, they're beyond help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that video, and I'll comment on it momentarily. So here we go.
Dad,
Yeah.
is it okay to use the military to people who pose no threat?
100%. And those two people posed a threat.
What was the threat?
Hanging on the side of a boat.
Nope, they were bringing in lethal drugs to the United States of America.
No.
They could people, and so they are the enemy, and they are
There's
not
no
civilians.
proof of that.
They're dead.
Beyond no proof of it, the boat was
I
destroyed.
don't care.
The drugs are gone.
That's all right,
But-
but they need to go too. So they'll be driving another boat
Uh-huh.
next week.
But in
We're at war with Venezuela. If you
We're
haven't
not.
figured
No,
that
we're
out,
not.
No, we're not.
Oh yes, we are.
With
hasn't been
drugs.
declared.
With
We are.
drugs
We are at war
coming into
with
our country
Venezuela.
on those boats.
We are at war with
Okay.
Venezuela.
Those
If you don't
boats-
believe that, you need to go get another job.
Get another job.
Those boats did not have fishing people on them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they did.
They were not having
No, they
a
didn't.
party
Yes,
with.
they did.
No, they didn't.
No.
There has been a report that one of the men that was
who that report?
murdered,
CNN.
his
No.
wife came forward and said, "My husband was a fisherman."
Oh, sure he was.
Then he shouldn't have been on the drug boat.
And that woman.
You don't
probably-
know that it's a drug
That
boat.
woman probably had a Venezuelan gun pointed at her
You
back.
don't know it was a drug boat.
Yeah, we
They're
do.
drug
No,
boats.
you don't.
Let's say that
I
it
don't
is.
care if it is.
Dad,
Yeah.
is it?
Okay, here's the problem. I know too many people like this. I mean, unfortunately, I know too many people like this. And these are the same kind of people who believe that these fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela were, drug lords and drug cartel people, what have you. These are the same people who believe that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and that Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden were working together. These are the same kind of people. It's that same mentality. It's the same mentality. These are the birthers. These people were birthers. These people were fucking Tea Partiers. These people are the type of people who believe in QAnon. And back in the 1990s, when, even though I hated the Clintons, I had to defend Clinton when Monica Lewinsky was sucking on Bill Clinton's dick, and they tried to go and remove him from the presidency over that. And who would ever thunk it that it's a possibility that Donald Trump was sucking on Bill Clinton's dick? But whatever. But here's the thing. Thing about it is this. These are the people who, these are the people that believed every conspiracy, from the Free Republic crowd in the 1990s to the people who celebrated Bush and Cheney and the Iraq War and the surveillance state that we have today, and it's funny how that works. When Bush and Cheney were cracking down on civil liberties, it was to protect us and keep us safe. But when Obama continued it, with the frisking of the people at the airport, which was taking place under Bush and Cheney, was to keep us safe. Under Obama, apparently people at the airport, the TSA people, they were molesting the passengers. I mean, that's, I guess they were keeping us safe again under Trump when he won in 2016, but they were molesting the passengers again under Biden, and now they're keeping us safe again. I mean, that, I hate partisan hackery. I really do. I hate it when it comes to the Democrats. I hate it when it comes to the Republicans. I hate it when it comes to anybody. What's that, Warren? Did I do it? Did I hit 1,000? You said, will he hit 1K? Well, oh, hell yeah. That's not going to stop me. We're going to have a show tonight. And listen, everyone, cheers, cheers. I am at 1,000. Woohoo, 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 woo. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Almost 6 years, but I made it to 1,000. Thank you, and bless you, and bless you, and bless all of you, all 1,000 of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long time, and I'll go in with the next story in a minute. But I would just want to say, I started this in February 17th, 2020, and you know the story. I was so annoyed in 2018, 2019. It's going back to 2016 with the Bernie Bros, the Bernie Bros, the Bernie Bros, and I was like, so I named the channel initially Bernie Bro. I was going to be an obnoxious Bernie Bro online, which I was always an obnoxious Bernie Bro before the term existed. My friend here online, she's still up here. Yeah, I think she's here. Yeah, Catty Ann. Catty Ann can tell you I was an obnoxious Bernie Bro going back to the day. So anyway, yeah. So that's what I was doing back then. But then Bernie dropped out. And then he decided to cuck out on all of us and everything. I mean, I don't dislike Bernie. I'm a little more tolerant of Bernie than maybe some of y'all on the chat line. Don't hate me, but I have my criticisms of Bernie too. I'm not that kind to the squad. I'm not that kind to all of these other Democrats that came along and all of that. The only reason I have a little bit of empathy for Bernie is that we're here because of Bernie. Independent media, yeah, I know TYT was around, what have you, but honestly, Bernie inspired people to do this. So all of us are kind of here because of Bernie, and that he deserves, some things. But here's the thing. We're taking what Bernie has taught us, and we're going further left, and we're going to try to fight for what we're going to fight with, and take what we got, and try to do what we can to make this country. I don't want to make America great in the way that it needs to be made great, not that reactionary Trumpian way, but in a way that America has a conscience. The best in American tradition, whether we're talking about Eugene Victor Debs, Mother Jones, we're talking about Martin Luther King. Even though we're talking about the two-party system here, we could add FDR. But just various people, that have actually worked to make this country the part of the 20th century. What was good about the 20th century. Take that, bring that back, improve on it, and march U.S. toward an actual socialism. That's how I see it, and I call it socialism. But if you want to call it something else, that's fine. Yeah, Freedom Riders. Thank you. And Catty Ann and I had something to brag about because. Catty Ann was a member of the Young People's Socialist League. So was I. I was a member of the Young People's Socialist League, and the Freedom Riders were mostly people in YPSL, Young People's Socialist League, that set up the whole the Freedom Riders in 1960 to desegregate the South. And so anyway, had that to be proud of. In the legacy, and it's not just one organization, one movement. Just there's various struggles and various movements that work together and to create a better society. Unfortunately, neoliberalism reverse a lot of the positive gains that we made and now we kind of return, sadly, to the what we call the Gilded Age. So we got to go and dismantle that Gilded Age for damn sure. I am going to play another video. I'm going to comment on it. I'm not really a Bosch fan, so please, whatever you do, forgive me. But I have to go and share this because he's not wrong this time. Bosch discusses the possibility of Jasmine Crockett running for the U.S. Senate. Now, I have my views on Jasmine Crockett. I don't think she's the worst Democrat running. I don't think she's the best Democrat running. But I do have some concerns about her, some of her positions, but also that she had the chops it takes to unseat was it John Cornyn, another shitty Southern style Republican. And we're talking about Texas. So we don't know. I have my doubts. So I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of it, and I'm going to comment on it because I was listening to it today. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to play this, and I'm going to share it with y'all. So forgive me, but it's relevant.
Check this shit out.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Is it possible to get a negative Latin vote? Like, can you get less than 0% of the Latin vote in Texas? We're going to find out.
I'll tell you the problem I have with that comment. And I mean, I understand what you're saying about the African American community picking cotton as a stereotype. But to bestow the stereotype on people in Latin America is a little bit insulting too. I mean, yeah, I guess a lot of folks with the workers permit and all that coming here, that's what they do. But is that what we expect a whole group to do? I mean, is that how we look at people from the opposite side of the border, that they just come here to go pick our lettuce because we can't do it ourselves or what have you? I mean, it's a little bit insulting. I mean, so I just wanted to talk about that. And I am going to talk about the government of Mexico, one of their reforms in a little bit, because President Claudia Sheinbaum's government, they're kicking ass down in Mexico in ways that we should be doing it over here. But it all fits into the migration. I don't even want to call it a migration crisis, because anything that was considered even close to a crisis is self-correcting. And no, it ain't the ICE agents that's correcting things. If anything, ICE agents are making things worse or slowing down the progress. The progress is coming from Mexico itself. But anyway, I'll let Bosch share his thoughts, and then I'll share mine, and I'll try not to subject you too much to Bosch. All right.
When keeping it real goes wrong, Jesus Christ, she's so stupid. And she's so stupid. And she's so, Jesus, I don't know a word to go with here other than racist. There's so much racial animus dripping from her. It's crazy. Keep this shit in the Republican Party, please. Oh my God. This is insane thing to say. We need immigrants in this country because black people are done picking cotton. What the are you talking about, lady? Holy shit. Literally, like, the main argument that Republicans have used to win over Latin voters is the idea that Democrats only want illegal immigrants to maintain a permanent racial underclass. And By the way, that is why illegal immigrants are here. They do maintain a perpetual racial underclass, and we should allow them citizenship so they don't occupy that position. Like, I'm in favor of the immigration, but Jasmine Crockett, apparently, like, the best pro argument she can make for immigration is we want the racial undercast. You know, my argument is, well, I want the immigrants. I don't care if they're the racial. I don't care if they're farming or working tech jobs, or if they're, I don't really care, to be honest. I just think it's cool that they can immigrate here. You get one life. Do you think she means it in that way, though? That is explicitly what she said. What other way can you interpret this? What interpretation can you have of this? We need immigrants here because I know y'all ain't farming. We're done picking cotton. What possible? I have no idea how else you could run with that. I'm gonna watch it. I can't get over how bad this is. Jesus Christ. No, it is worse than the conservative argument, because conservatives will often disingenuously pretend that they're concerned about the plight of undocumented immigrants. We don't want them here because they're just gonna have a shit life here anyway. She's essentially affirming the worst version of the Republican argument. It's like negative Latin vote, man.
So I had to go around the country
One
and
more
educate
time.
people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
But she's really proud of it too. She's really proud of this this edgy racial commentary. We done picking cotton. She's like really leaning into it, like she's working on a tight five. Are we team Tallarico? Oh yeah. Think she'll win the Democratic primary and general with nothing but the Texas black vote? Right now she's the front runner. She's leading Tallarico by like 7 points.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
What they
Here's the thing about Jasmine Crockett. Now, one thing I will say about Jasmine Crockett, the one thing that I would say that she's got going for her, and this is where she's got going for her, and this is where I will stop. She put Marjorie Taylor Greene in her place with her bleach blonde, bad Bill Butch body statement last year, which I definitely 100% approved of. So, I mean, I was, because Marjorie Taylor Greene, in spite of her rebranding, and chagrin to say this, but to my chagrin, that she's actually said some things that almost make sense by her standards lately, because Trump hurt her feelings. Thing is that I was glad that she put her in her place. When Marjorie Taylor Greene went and attacked her for her eyelashes comment and what have you. Progressives or well-meaning left-wing people in the Democratic Party wants to see her as sort of a new AOC. I have problems with AOC. But AOC, when she's not acting like a valley girl, pardon my sexism, she can state policy at times. It'd be nice if she fights for those policies. It really would be wonderful if she could fight for them, like she said about raising the ruckus. But hey, she does have policies. Jasmine Crockett, I mean, she's not the lady from Virginia that became governor, Spanberger, one of the more conservative Democrats in Congress at the time, or Hakeem Jeffries, who's further right than Nancy Pelosi. She's probably a little bit better than that. And while I am not too fond today of the squad, her politics is not quite up to snuff with the squad. So That's where I stand on that. Hold on.
Do for this country? Well, they pick our cotton. Apparently Tallarico is in on one. James Tallarico versus 20 undecided Texas voters. Jubilee 3 hours ago. It's crazy. James Carville is pro Tallarico Vosh plot twist. Do you think it's the racism? This actually does make sense to me because I feel like so Carville is evil, but he's also a dinosaur. And I feel like he would not like Crockett because she's foul-mouthed and rude. You know, genuinely, I feel like there's a bias here. Like Tallarico is a nice young man, and Crockett is rude and boorish and so on. So I feel like there's a bias in his favor there. You know, yeah, she's distasteful. You nailed it. That's basically what he said. Yes, yeah, I see it. She is very self-absorbed. We can't watch this whole thing. I kind of want to get a tone read, though. Can we do that? Can you permit a white boy a bit of a tone read?
Yeah. Honestly, James, I don't think you're going to do anything. We've heard it before, drain the swamp, eat the rich until they get voted, and then they're just rich people swimming in the swamp.
Here's where I agree
Like
with
who?
you. We need way more investment in our communities here in America.
How?
It's why I fight.
How?
It's why it's why I fight for.
How do we need to invest in those communities?
Yeah, Barbara Jordan, a great Texan, she said, if you're not at the table, you're on the.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know next to nothing about this. Cannot think of his name at the moment. This opponent that's going to be her rival. He seems to be a Beto O'Rourke wannabe. And Beto O'Rourke, he came across as this progressive. And then, let's see what we got here. He came across as this progressive. And then he ended up being just as bad as a lot of other corporate Democrats. But, he knows how to look hip. And when he was going against Ted Cruz in 2018, at that time, I'm just like, oh, cool. He's snarky. He curses. He jumps on tables, flaps his arms around, and he pisses off Ted Cruz and his supporters. Base, And I was just like, it's like to defeat Ted Cruz, that would be so wonderful. And the Republican Party has gotten so far to the right. Now, doesn't mean that I love the Democrats. When I beat up on Republicans, I want to make that clear. This doesn't mean that I love the Democrats. Doesn't mean that I have that false sense of hope in the Democrats. I don't. Democrats have a way of making damn sure that the Republicans can make a comeback. When the cure for Republican politics being out of the picture is the Democrats doing what they're stereotypically are supposed to be known for doing, looking out for the working class. Looking out for the working class. Delivering the goods for the people. They don't. Not at all. And I just can't deal. I just can't deal with the Democrats. It makes me feel dirty. And I would love to sit there and be a Democrat like I used to be. But, here's the thing. I feel dirty doing it because it's like I'm voting for these motherfuckers. They're just going to give me the same shit as the Republicans, but they're going to be a little nicer about it. They're going to be pleasant. They're going to do it with a smile. They're not going to have this angry Southern drawl barking how they're going to fuck you up the ass without a lube. They're going to apologize as they do it to you and say we'll try to go easy on you. Or actually, one of the best analogies is he was saying it from the right, and that was, I think his name was Howard Phillips from the American Conservative Union, that he sees the Democrats as a car slamming against the wall at 300 miles an hour and the Republicans slamming against the wall at 55 miles an hour. I think he was like the Constitution Party candidate for president. I think. Anyway, I see it the other way around. I see the Republicans as the car slamming against the wall 300 miles an hour, and the Democrats they're driving at the speed limit. They're a little electric car hitting the car, slamming it against the wall at maybe 40 miles an hour, doing a whole lot of damage. Still, people getting hurt in both cars. So that's where, the difference is cosmetic for the most part. And so that's what it comes down to. So anyhow, let's see. Let's do a Twitter story real quick. And I want to let you know that I have no use for Piers Morgan, but one of the few times that Piers Morgan came out on top would be the time that he went against Nick Fuentes. And here he is. Here's the exchange.
Sure. No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father is part Mexican.
Oh, hold on. Let me go.
I get a lot of attacks when I talk about that I'm against interracial marriage. And what's funny is that every other group is against interracial or interethnic marriage. Jews,
But you're the
Chinese,
product of an interracial marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Not
Let's say
really.
for the sake of
Not
argument,
really.
sure.
No, you're the product of an interracial marriage, and your father is part Mexican. You're literally,
For the sake of
you're literally
argument, we
the
can
very
say sure.
person you've just told me you want to avoid.
What race is Hispanic? Is that a race?
Well, what do you think it is?
I'm asking you, what race is Hispanic?
Hispanic, of course, it's a race. It's called Hispanic.
Okay. Well, Piers Morgan gets props for attacking Nick Fuentes for his racism. He's stupid for saying Hispanic is a race. I say this because the only thing I have in common with Nick Fuentes is that I'm half Hispanic, just like he's half Hispanic. And so Nick Fuentes is correct technically on that, like Hispanic is not a race. He's correct on that, but he's full of shit in the sense that to be against interracial dating, interracial marriages. What fucking business is it of his? What fucking business is it of his? Because my dad's an American of Scottish-Irish descent. My mother is Puerto Rican, Spaniard, Basque descent, also mixed with Taino Indian, Puerto Rican. I would not be alive if the interracial relationships of the past of various people on my mom's side didn't take place. And the same thing can be said about Nick Fuentes' father. Spaniards and Native American or indigenous people in Mexico who were together eventually would contribute to producing offspring like Nick Fuentes. So Nick Fuentes, his bigotry makes no sense at all. And, I don't like to quote Tucker Carlson, but what he is basically the weird gay kid in the basement. So, there's that. All right. So we'll go with the next story. And let me go and say hi to Peace Dub. How are you doing this evening? No APAC politicians. Vote no APAC politicians. Yep. Yeah. And it's more than reasonable that they need to register as a foreign entity. If any other organizations working on behalf of other countries can do that, why not? Why not APAC? But then somebody will be like, "Well, you're being anti-Semitic." No, you're not. APAC has too much influence. Look, if Norway had too much influence, you'd say the same thing. So, I mean, you don't want, and I'm not hardly what you would call a patriot or a nationalist or what have you, but you don't want, you don't want another country coming in and getting in your shit. And, but people believe that's Russia or people think it's China. Honestly, neither of those countries really have that powerful influence of what goes on with our politicians. It's Israel, especially Israel under Netanyahu. But it's Israel, it would still be Israel even if Israel had a less bad government, I guess you could say, or more of a good cop government as opposed to the bad cop government it is currently. A little side note, I found this out. The center left parties in Israel, the Labor Party and the Meretz, kind of no longer exist. Apparently last year, they merged. And get this, they're now called the Democrats. They merged because Meretz was voted out of parliament in 2022 and the Labor Party went down to like 4 seats in the Knesset. So they figured that they combined themselves, they might be able to make a comeback. So they are now called the Democrats. Lousy name, lousy move on their part, but oh well, just thought to say that. I'll go with the next story. With due dissidents, they discussed this with regard to Rob Reiner. You know what happened with Rob Reiner? Obviously, Rob Reiner ended up getting, he ended up dying. Killed by his apparently by his son. Rob Reiner and his wife, found dead Sunday. Came across as a shock to me. It's kind of creepy when you think about it, that your own flesh and blood you brought into this world will be the one that will take you out. But anyway, what was even just as shocking, it's not shocking, but with the Trump tweet that came out, if Trump would have came out with a tweet, we know what the tweet is. He pretty much insulted Rob Reiner, and if he would have came out with something normal like my condolences to Rob Reiner's family. He was a good actor, a good director. We had some political differences, but this is a tragedy, blah, blah, blah. That would have been more, it's sad to say that would have been more controversial than he suffered from Trump derangement syndrome, TDS. Really classy, Trump, really classy. So anyway, let's go ahead and share that story right now. Due dissidence. It was Keaton White's birthday yesterday. Just to let you know. So happy birthday to Keaton. And by the way, Keaton was when I got to 500 subs, coincidentally, it was Keaton Weiss that was number 500 exactly on my channel. So yeah, Keaton Weiss subscribed to this channel, and he was like the 500th person. True story. So here we go.
Hello, dissidents. Shabbat shalom. Welcome.
Your mic's messed up.
Oh, it's messed up again? What happened?
Messed up again.
Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Due Disciplines podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler once again.
Hello.
How's everybody doing? Make sure my settings are good. All right, I don't know why that happened. Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate you all. Thanks for filing in. We got a great crowd in here to start things off today. 741 on the YouTube side, 384 over on Rumble. What's up?
Very
Ted?
nice.
You
Very
hanging out
nice.
at home? Hey, you guys all celebrating Hanukkah, taking the week off? We've got a
We're
lot
all-
of
that's
big
it,
crowd
man.
in here for a Tuesday afternoon. But that's great. It's great to see you all. Help everybody.
Well, we have a
doing
lot
all
of
right.
IDF in our audience, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
So. Maybe. I know it's Hanukkah this week. I know that. I know, people are getting ready for Christmas. Usually people, are busy running around this time of year. I know, because it's, this is my birthday week. It was my birthday yesterday. And I used to, during my birthday week is, it's the middle of the holidays. So, you have an extra sense of it when your birthday hits around that time. But it's great to see everybody. 8:13 now filing in. Smash that like button. Let's get an even bigger crowd in here. Today, we have a lot to get to. There's some breaking news on the healthcare front, which we're actually going to get to later in the show. We were going to do a healthcare segment on Sunday, but we ran really long. So luckily, there's an update for everybody on that story. Unfortunately, it's not a good update, but we will get to that later on in the show. So thanks, everybody, for being here.
It's not a good update. They
Well-
didn't introduce a Medicare for all bill.
No
No?
Medicare for all bill. Nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. All right. We will jump right in, everybody. Once again, thanks for being here. You all heard the news, of course. Actually, it came through Sunday night, late Sunday night, while we were doing the show. Rob Reiner and his wife found dead in their LA home from apparent stab wounds. And later, it was found that the prime suspect now is their son, Nick. Rob Reiner's son, Nick, arrested and booked on suspicion of murder in parents' deaths. Nick Reiner, the younger son of Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner, has been arrested and booked on suspicion of murdering his parents after they were found dead Sunday in their Los Angeles area home. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell said Sunday at a news conference the police had taken Nick Reiner into custody. In an update later in the day, police said he was being held without bail. Nick Reiner, 32, has a long history with drug addiction, which began in his teens. He told People, meaning People magazine, in an interview in 2016 that he had spent weeks sleeping rough on the streets and was in and out of rehab for addiction treatment that started when he was 15. Those experiences inspired the 2016 movie Being Charlie, which was directed by Rob Reiner, co-written by Nick Reiner, and featured actor Cary Elwes, famous for appearing, of course, in Reiner's classic The Princess Bride, as the main character's father. The plot focuses on a young man struggling with addiction who has been in and out of rehab. So here's a clip of Rob Reiner and his son, which hits different now, of course, talking about making that film.
Together. I mean, it was like over a period of a year. It was intense. It was difficult at times, but it was also the most satisfying creative experience I've ever had.
What was the most difficult part about working together for the two of you? I mean, I have trouble working together with my dad on yard work, let alone, a 2-year movie.
Well, what kind of yard work do you do?
That could be where it lies. I don't like raking,
Well, there you go. You got them negatives going in. What did you think? What was the toughest for you? What do you think, Nick?
It wasn't very tough. I mean, it was pretty nice experience for me. I don't really think it was like tough at all.
Really?
A little bit, but
I mean, we did get into fights over things, but ultimately it forced us to make the film better. I mean, we get into issues, and I would see, the whole process for me, I can just speak for myself. It did make me understand him a lot more, and I think it made me a better father. Hopefully it did. I don't know, but I think that, and you'll see it in the film. What happens is, your kid, if your kid is going through rough times, you know, the parent is your main job is to keep your child safe. So I would do anything. I felt at a loss. So I would do anything that, as we say in the film, anybody with a desk and a diploma, I would listen to them. And the whole idea of tough love and you have to be a certain way. And it's not my nature. It's not the way I am built, but I went and did that.
Oh, yeah, that definitely hits different now, obviously. James Woods tweets out, Rob and I remain good friends ever since we made Ghosts of Mississippi. The studio didn't think I was old enough to do the part. They also thought I was confused as to who the heroes and the villains were in that film. No, he didn't write that. But Rob fought for me. Political differences never stood in the way of our love and respect for each other. I am devastated by this terrible event. So James Woods, obviously a political opponent of Rob Reiner, found it in him to show some grace there. Ted Cruz really poured it on. Ted Cruz is apparently obsessed with The Princess Bride, which
You're kidding me.
No, it's very strange. That's apparently his favorite movie. I'd known that about him for a while. Yeah. He's a strange bird. I am deeply saddened at the horrific murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. He was one of the most talented movie makers to have ever lived. From Spinal Tap to When Harry Met Sally, from A Few Good Men to my favorite movie of all time, The Princess Bride. We are weeping the loss of a comedic and storytelling master. His movies touched us deeply and spoke to our fundamental humanity. Rob Reiner was one of a kind, and he will be missed. The tragic circumstances of his murder make it all the more horrible. Heidi and I are praying for his family. Rest in peace. So, you know, some people, for reasons we'll get into in a future segment, because Donald Trump did not show the same grace, as we'll get to in another clip. But here are, you know, some clips that now have been surfacing of Rob Reiner saying what he thinks about the state of American politics and, of course, Donald Trump.
Utter lying buffoon. I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth. He's a fraud. He lies. He cheats people. Everything that comes out of his mouth virtually is a lie. And he's a con man. And if you look at what he's done with his career and how he's tricked people into things, it's abhorrent. I never liked George W. Bush, his policies, but I didn't hate the guy. I hate this man.
See, there you go. Yeah, George W. Bush, you know, he was a good guy. He was a well-meaning, good guy.
Yeah.
I didn't like his policies, but no, the guy who may have done 9/11, even if you don't believe that, the guy who clearly lied about a war that got 1 million people killed and really set us on a path of accelerated decline and violent devastation for the next century, which I would argue was part of the plan of the people surrounding George W. Bush, at the very least, if not W himself. But no, I mean, there's nothing personal with George W. Bush.
Yeah, the Bush era was pre-social media. But I am sure that if you can go back and find interviews that Reiner did in that period, he would have been whistling a different tune back then about George Bush, because they all did. They all did. They spoke about Bush the way they speak about Trump at the time. He was a threat to democracy, intellectually unqualified. Cheney is the real president. Danger to democracy. Doesn't care about the Constitution. Doesn't respect freedom of speech and protest rights. They were saying all that stuff about Bush, and then he got rehabilitated. It's partly the Michelle George Bush candy caper. You know, she did a lot to rehabilitate him. But also, yeah, I mean, because he was not a Trumpist, he got redefined as a centrist.
Right, of course. And of course, here's Rob Reiner talking about how the Russians, you know, essentially pulled off a soft coup in 2016 and electing Donald Trump. This video has been making the rounds as well.
And America, we've got a problem. We've been attacked by a foreign enemy power, and our president refuses to defend us. Donald Trump is meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin one-on-one in a closed-door meeting with no aides present and no record of what will be said. Putin's government attacked our democracy by interfering in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump become president. That is not in dispute. It has been verified by all U.S. intelligence agencies, the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee, and the U.S. Justice Department. Trump and his campaign's conspiracy with Russia is the subject of a federal investigation.
All right. So we get, oh, there's a blast from the past.
Yeah. I have always been skeptical of Russiagate. And part of the, I've always have said from back then that Russiagate and there's the whole resistance, pink pussy hat movement was, yeah, it was anti-Trump, but it was also to punch left. It was led by the Hillary people, and it was a polite way of also saying, hey, fuck Bernie and his supporters too, from back then. So, and I'm speaking in terms of 2016 to 2020, when they went with Russiagate, going after Trump. Yeah, and let me make that clear. Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Donald Trump then, fuck Donald Trump now. But they also were going after people like us. So I just wanted to state that. So a few more minutes and then I'll go with the next story.
Remember that face? Remember Robert Mueller?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, look, I mean, the thing is, it's difficult to compile tweets and statements from Rob Reiner, since when Trump won a second time, Rob Reiner famously deleted his X account, so you can't even search the archive of old tweets. But he was obviously a lib's lib. He was a guy whose politics were, I would argue, extremely destructive and extremely important in ushering in Donald Trump. That's the irony that he was never able to grasp, right? He never understood why there was a Bernie to Trump crossover in 2016. In the 2020 primary, that final debate, the weird COVID debate in the silent room, when it looked like Biden was on the doorstep of victory, he famously tweeted out, I remembered this, couldn't find it because you can't find his tweets now. You'd have to find a screenshot of it, which talk about a needle in a haystack. He said, you know, Bernie sounded like an advocate. Biden sounded like a president. He backed Hillary in 2016. You know, he was clearly a guy with just no understanding of the moment he was living through. I think that was partly a function of the fact that he was born into Hollywood royalty, grew up a very privileged guy, just didn't understand the moment that he was living in. And so, you know, when I watch clips of Rob Reiner talking politics, he honestly just sounds like a big baby. You know, Russ and I have talked about this off air. We've talked about this a little bit on air. He sounds like a guy who could have been online waiting to see Pod Save for, you know, $300 at the King's Theater in Brooklyn or wherever they were. He strikes me as a Pod Save America, MSNBC lib, because that's who he was. And as difficult as it was to stomach his political views at the time he was alive, obviously, and as difficult as it is to stomach the libs now at the No Kings rally, and even going back 10 years to the, you know, Bernie versus HRC war of 2016. You know, when you spend time interpersonally with these libs, I've said this in the past, as frustrating as it is to talk with them, it's really difficult to hate them because they just come off as children. He just sounds like a big baby when he talks politics. I don't think Rob Reiner was a bad person with malice in his heart. I think he was a very sheltered, privileged guy whose life experience led him to have a complete misunderstanding about the sort of populist fork in the road that we came to in 2016, and he was never able to gain his footing. And so while it's weird, because you look at a guy like that and you say, what a terrible political legacy of that archetype, that lib archetype. But personally, yeah, I never hated Rob Reiner. And you could see even in the interview, he always came off as kind of funny and down to earth. He always had this sort of everyman's way of speaking. So he was one of these guys, like, I never hate, and he never had the vitriol in his heart. Like, you know, what was the name who totally disappeared now? Milano. Remember her with the Bernie?
Yeah.
Right, you know, he was never on the front lines of saying you're a sexist if you criticize Hillary Clinton. I'm sure he said something to that effect before about Trump and the Republicans, but I don't remember him spewing that kind of shit in the Bernie
Mhm.
primaries. So yeah, I mean, he is emblematic of a certain type that sort of blindly ushered in Trump while thinking he had the antidote. He was actually part of what brought Trump to power.
Well, I think in a lot of respects, and it is very ironic that he played the liberal meathead new left avatar
right.
on All in the Family, because that is very much his life trajectory and the politics he ended up having. In spite of having grown up Hollywood royalty, or maybe because of it, his politics are very much an encapsulation of his generation. And it's a
Right.
generation that was in many ways psyoped into defining leftism by social justice issues and understanding their project as being compatible with antipathy to communism, socialism, and in his day, the USSR, right? People like Gloria Steinem were recruited by the CIA. And it's a very distinct worldview, right? Like, yeah, we believe in America. We're rocking in the USA. We just think everyone should be able to sit at the same lunch
Right,
counter.
exactly.
Da, 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 da. And you know what? We don't want to live in no authoritarian regime.
Right.
So becoming late in life, this cold warrior fit very easily with the way his generation of activists were steered by the Congress for Cultural Freedom and other CIA ops to understand leftism within a very narrowly defined identitarian range. But another thing that's interesting to ponder when you see that Ted Cruz is a fan, you say, how could that be? Another way that he is a product of his generation is as political as he was in his public pronouncements. His films are not. His film.
And to interrupt there. Interestingly enough, what Russell was talking about with regard to Rob Reiner and his politics. When you think about the politics he espouses to Meathead on All in the Family, kind of contrasts what he evolved into, the shit lib that he became. Basically, you know the type, somebody who claims he's a liberal, but somehow got Reaganized along the way. In other words, the Bill Clinton brand of liberalism. And that's what happened to the Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton brand of liberalism, which happened to a lot of Democrats, because they thought that they could. They thought they were just going to always be graceful losers in presidential elections. It was like when Jimmy Carter was defeated in '80. They were like, okay. Then the landslide against Walter Mondale. You're like, okay, well, there's 1988. And in 1988, Vice President George Bush ate Michael Dukakis for breakfast. So that was 3 presidential Republican victories in a row. So the Democrats were thinking, oh, we'll never, ever win the presidency again. Through the Democratic Leadership Council, they did a rebranding, and the Democratic Party got Reaganized. And along the way, people like Rob Reiner went along with the ride. And they think of themselves as badass progressives. But they're not. They're rainbow capitalists at best. You contrast that with Anthony Booth, or Tony Booth, a British actor. Now, why am I bringing an obscure British actor? Obscure in the sense that most Americans never heard of Anthony Booth. Anthony Booth was Rob Reiner's counterpart as a meathead. And let me explain. On a British TV series called Till Death Us Do Part. Till Death Us Do Part was a British television program that was Americanized into All in the Family. It was a British TV program that lasted from 1965 until 1976. I will play some clippings right now, but you know, copyright. So, it was the same storyline as All in the Family, except instead of Queens, New York, it was East London in a borough called Wapping. It was basically Alf Garnett was more bigoted than Archie. Archie was softly bigoted, whereas Alf Garnett was like hardcore bigoted. Elsie was Edith Bunker's counterpart, kind of ditzy like Edith, but a little bit significantly dumber, and had a little more of a mean streak. She would stand up to Alf, which was a good thing. Rita was the daughter, kind of sarcastic, more attractive than Sally Struthers. The name of the actress was Una Stubbs. Dark hair, you know, kind of had that mod look from the 60s going on thing about her. And then there was Anthony Booth, who was the son-in-law, the Trotskyist son-in-law of Alf Garnett, and they lived in the same flat in London, and they used to argue, just like they did on All in the Family. All in the Family, Michaels, they kind of scaled down his politics to saying that he was just a liberal. Occasionally, they would say he was a socialist, but they tried not to do it too much. I have a whole conspiracy theory about how Michael Stivic was a member of the Young People's Socialist League, the youth section of the Socialist Party, Social Democratic Federation, which renamed itself the Socialist Party, USA, and changed its name to Social Democrats USA in 1972. They split off into DSOC, Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee, that would become DSA, and then this reconstituted Socialist Party USA, that whole family tree. And I could go on the whole night about that. And Catty Ann could tell you that if she's still on the chat line. I have a conspiracy theory that Michael Stivic was a member of one of those groupings. But anyway, Anthony Booth was the real-life father-in-law of Tony Blair, and he remained a lifelong leftist within the Labor Party. At that time, he rejected the New Labor bullshit of Tony Blair, and he was pretty much, you know, old-school socialist. Some say debatably a communist. And so they didn't get along, Tony Blair and Tony Booth, but his politics for sure was better than the politics of Rob Reiner, who basically was a Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden apologist. So, and so if he was still alive today, I would imagine Tony Booth would be on board with Jeremy Corbyn's political party. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just rambling on. I apologize.
Or not, he didn't make these ranting liberal screeds as movies. He made movies. He made you could argue that A Few Good Men is pretty pro military.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, that's the another guy with the same exact politics is Aaron Sorkin, right?
Right.
Who wrote A Few Good Men. Yeah, makes sense. It was a perfect fit.
Right.
As a filmmaker, it's funny because he did have an impressive resume, an impressive run of film.
It was very good, man. I mean, he did what a director should do. I mean, artistically. Having driven a horse and carriage and directed, naturally I fused the two. It's like a horse, man. Like, horses have personality. If you drive them wrong, they'll throw you. They'll go berserk. You won't be able to control them. Like, you have to drive the horse the way it wants to be driven. That's how you have to approach a script as a director. Like, you can't impose something on a script that the script doesn't want or doesn't support. And it seems like that's what he did. Like, whatever.
Okay. I actually went on a little longer than I should have with this one, so I apologize. Anyway, I will probably do a video on the mean tweet of Donald Trump's. Probably maybe tomorrow if I have time, I might do it. I have a video out on Jasmine Crockett, so I might do something quick. If I don't do it tomorrow, I'll probably do it on Friday. I have something I have to do on Thursday. So I will do another story here. Kind of an interesting story. I wish we had some good news in the United States when it comes to healthcare. But I will share some good news about healthcare in another country. And that's Armenia. As you know, Armenia used to be the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic. You would have thought that they would have kept their healthcare system, but apparently they didn't. But they're doing something about it now. And they're going to have a universal healthcare system in the year 2028. This is from the Armenian press. And Armenia to roll out universal healthcare insurance by 2028 in 3 phases. Excuse me. Did I say phrases? Phases. Okay. And it's a name that I can't pronounce, but I'm going to try to pronounce it anyway. Mikhitar Khachatryan. And anybody who's Armenian, I apologize for this, okay? Even Anna Kasparian. I apologize to anybody who's a Armenian heritage that I butchered the name. I didn't mean to do. The comprehensive health insurance system in Armenia will be implemented in 3 phases, with the rollout beginning in 2026 and scheduled by completion by 2028, according to Minister of Healthcare and Anahit Anavasayan. The first phase will cover approximately 1.6 million citizens who have resided in Armenia in the last 183 days. The phase will include children, senior citizens, persons with disabilities, and individuals with monthly incomes exceeding 200,000 drams. The universal system will encompass preventive care, early detection, screening programs, and other healthcare services. Evanensayan told the press briefings. The annual insurance package will cost $129,600 drams per person and will be funded by citizens through taxation. According to Evanensayan, the financial mechanism is still under discussion. One option being considered is a potential agreement between employers and employees, where the employer would cover the full cost of the insurance without deducting it from the employee's salary. So, in other words, they're creating a single payer system, it looks like, in Armenia. And, you know, it's amazing that in the first world countries, and I guess you would call it a third world country. I guess it will qualify as third world. Developing, I guess is probably a better term to use. That healthcare for everybody is not an issue. It's something that's to be welcome. That's a concept. But here in the United States, you know, that's controversial to some. We don't want that government. We don't want that. Yeah, people still have that mentality. But, you know, healthcare for all is a good idea. I mean, it's just good policy. And it's a crime against humanity for us not to have it. To allow something like private insurance and to dictate and run the show. They shouldn't have that power. They should be shut down. And he really should. Now, the United States, we're trying to. Johnson, there's a lot that could be said about Lyndon Johnson. I'm not a fan of Lyndon Johnson. I want to make that clear. But the one thing that Lyndon Johnson had going for him was that there was plans to create a single payer system in the United States. National health insurance, it was called at the time. And that was supposed to be implemented in 3 stages. Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare Act of 64, Medicaid Act of 65. Those two were like the first stage of what was supposed to be the single payer, what is called Medicare for All today. And then the second phase was supposed to cover like children or people, under a certain age, I guess probably teenagers or something like that. And then by the 1970s, it was supposed to cover, like in the mid 70s, it was supposed to cover that final group in the middle between senior citizens and kids, teenagers, what have you. And that was how it was supposed to be implemented, but it never worked out that way. Ted Kennedy and Richard Nixon in 1974, before Nixon resigned. And this is the only reason why Nixon resigning might have been not as much of a good idea as it seemed at the time, because they had an agreement that maybe we should work toward universal health care. It wasn't national health insurance, but it was something that was better than the Affordable Care Act. It was going to look something kind of like what Belgium and the Netherlands and what modern day West Germany has today. Like basically, and I had a German assistant manager years ago at my workplace, and we were discussing it, and I was describing, I said, let me get this straight about your healthcare system in Germany. It's basically Obamacare, but more public and more generous, and maybe less bureaucratic. And he said, that's exactly how it is. In other words, you got private health insurance, but you also have a public option system. And so they won't call it that, but you got an insurance system, a public insurance system, and you have private insurance systems, and a lot of ways it's run like the United States, but because it has a public insurance system, it covers those who can't afford it, and it covers the entire population, and it works pretty well. It's not bureaucratic, and it's not what I would ultimately favor. I think you need to get rid of the insurance companies altogether, but you got to have private insurance companies, the public option. Well, the way it was done in places like the Netherlands and Germany and places like that would be the only way I could go along with it. So, but congratulations to the people of Armenia. I'm glad that y'all are doing something that the United States should have been doing since the days of Roosevelt. What's it going to take, America, to become a normal country? So anyway, let's go with another international story. Mexico. I heard many people say this many times, and count me as another person. If Claudia Sheinbaum was my president, I'd be proud of her too. This is from December 4th, from Holland and Night Alert. The person, right? Let's see. I see a couple of names up here. Did they all write this article? I'm not sure. But suffice to say, the name of the article is "Reductions of Working Hours and Its Implementation in Mexico." And I will go and tell you what this is about before I read the article. Recently, legislation passed to reduce the work week in Mexico from 48 hours down to 40 hours. I didn't even know that shit, that they had a 48-hour work week, but it's going to be lowered down to 40, just like us and just like Canada. So we're going to have a uniform system between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, a 40-hour work week. And that's a good thing. The government of Mexico on December 3rd, 2025, announced the amendment project for the implementation of reduction of the working hours aimed at reducing the weekly work schedule in Mexico from 48 to 40 through the gradual schemes that will formally begin in 2027 and conclude in 2030. The proposal will be presented in Congress for discussion, and the amendment is expected to take effect May 1st, 2026, marking the start of the transition period. Main proposed stages, the amendment project incorporates key elements outlined below. Constitutional 40-hour work week. The reduction of the work week schedule, 40 hours, will be elevated to constitutional status and guarantee the right without affecting the wages and benefits, which that's the way it should be. Prohibition of overtime for minors. For the first time, it expressly set forth that minors will not be allowed to perform overtime work. That's a good thing. Gradual reduction of the weekly work schedule. The work week will be reduced by 2 hours per year starting January 1st of each year as follows. Effective date of transition period 2026, and then 2027 be the 47 hours a week. 2028, 44 hours a week. 2029, 42 hours per week. And in the year 2030, 40 hours per week. So, overtime work. The following new regulatory parameters are proposed. Voluntary overtime between 9 to 12 hours per week. Absolute provision for minors. Inclusion of cap of 4 triple rate hours, provision that did not previously exist in the federal labor law. Considerations for employers. The gradual implementation of the 40-hour work week represents a structural change in the organization of work in Mexico. For employees, the main challenge will include adjustment to shift schedule and operational coverage. Redesign of compensation models, overtime management, and labor budgets, the evaluation, staffing, and redistribution of the workloads, and potential needs for additional hirings, adaptations for internal policies, regulations, and attendance control systems, and implementation of technological tools for mandatory electronic record keeping, and analysis of impact on productivity, downtime, and operational efficiency. Holland and Knight is available to provide advice on diagnostics, impact projections, operational reorganization, and regulatory compliance during each stage of this process. Please contact the authors for more information. Okay, so there you go. And this is what I was talking about when it comes to the migration crisis in the United States. It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. And things are self-correcting. Self-correcting on both sides of the border. There's no border crisis. There's no border crisis. And Claudia Sheinbaum is the reason there's no border crisis. Because if life is improving in Mexico, then life is improving in Mexico, and that's going to be good for the United States. It's going to be good for the people of Mexico. And so ICE agents don't need to be doing this shit. They didn't need to be doing this shit to begin with. But even if Mexico was in horrific shape in their economy, it would still be wrong to treat the migrants the way that ICE treats their migrants. Suffice to say, what's going on in Mexico is awesome. The past 10, 15 years so with government of Mexico have done things like create a universal healthcare system. Mexico is now a universal healthcare nation. Mexico Mexico they have actually not necessarily renationalized some industries that were privatized, but there's a lot of stakeholder in the economy, and a little more public accountability in the economy, and a lot of corruption has been eliminated, and so Mexico is thriving in a lot of ways, and I say good old-fashioned European style social democracy works for the people of Mexico. Why can't it work for the United States? The United States, because the United States is the political culture in this country. It's a very cruel right-wing Overton window with people with very closed minds. That defines the American people, unfortunately, a little too much at times. So anyhow, let's see what we got here. All right, I'm taking a look through. Okay, we will a couple of more stories here and all of that. An issue I'm very passionate about is the death penalty. I am 100% opposed to capital punishment. So found an article here on it, kind of depressing, but I'll share it with you. From NPR, executions nearly double in 2025 due to dramatic rise in Florida. One more reason to be discussed by the legislature and the governor. Executions in the U.S. nearly double in 2025 over the previous year, as Florida executed more prisoners in a 12-month period than ever before, according to the Death Penalty Information Center. The organization, which tracks capital punishment, released its year-end report on Monday. It showed a complicated picture. Although public support for the death penalty remained at a low point, executions tick upward. These trends show there is a real disconnect between what the American public wants and what elected officials are doing with the death penalty, said Robin Marr, Executive Director of the Death Penalty Information Center. The group does not take a position on the death penalty itself, but is critical of how it's been applied. According to the report, states that carry 46 executions so far in 2025, up to 25 in 2024. 2 executions are scheduled in Georgia and Florida later this week, which will bring totals of 48, the highest in over 15 years. 19 people, about 40% of the nation's total, were or will be executed in Florida this year. The dramatic increase coincides with the second term of the President Trump, an avid supporter of the death penalty. Another reason he's a piece of shit. Since his return to office, Trump has ordered the resumption of the federal executions, which were paused by former President Joe Biden in 2021. The most recent federal execution took place during the last days of Trump's first term. Yeah, fuck Trump. Florida's responsible for 40% of this year's execution nationwide. This year, Florida broke its record for the most executions carried out in a single year, which was previously 8 in 2014. At a press conference in November, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Tallahassee Mussolini, said executions in the state were delayed by COVID-19 pandemic, but those issues have since been resolved. He said he owned the victim's family to ensure the death penalty is carried out smoothly and promptly. How about not having a death penalty at all, motherfucker? We heard from a lot of the family members of the victims over the years, and if you think about it, some of these crimes were committed in the 80s, and they wait, and there's appeal, and this and that. He said, you don't have justice when you have a death penalty. I don't care how much of a piece of shit somebody might be guilty of when it comes to crimes. Death penalty is evil. Let's not have a death penalty. DeSantis said he also believes in the death penalty could be a strong deterrent to crime. My view is it is an appropriate punishment for the worst offenders, he added, which is why I despise, one of the reasons why I despise this war criminal, Ron DeSantis. He's a war criminal. He was engaging in torture when he was a U.S. Navy officer in Guantanamo 20 years ago. On Thursday, Florida is scheduled to execute its 19th person this year. Frank Walls, 58, sentenced to death after being convicted of murdering Edward Alger and Ann Peterson during a home invasion robbery in 1987. Walls later confessed to 3 other killings. The second highest number of executions carried out is which happened in Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas. Among those executed were prisoners with PTSD and evidence of intellectual disability. At least 40 death row prisoners have been or will be activities such as brains said. Many would not be considered sentenced to the death today because changes in law and society understanding the effects of mental illness, severe trauma, Mars said. In 2002, the Supreme Court ruled that the executions of individuals with intellectual disabilities was unconstitutional, asserting that such punishments was cruel and unusual and therefore in violation of the 8th Amendment. Still, states were allowed to establish their own procedures in assessing intellectual disability. Now that the nation's highest court is considering how states should utilize IQ test results to evaluate mental capacity, disability advocacy groups say a narrow focus on IQ scores could lead to executing more people with intellectual disabilities. Also this year, veterans have been executed. Highest number in nearly 2 decades, according to the reports. Last year, 3 veterans were executed. This year, figure included Jeffrey Hutchinson, who was put to death in May for the murders of his girlfriend, Renee Flattery, and her 3 children in 1998. His lawyers argued that Hutchinson suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and a traumatic brain injury while serving in the Gulf War. For many veterans on death row, the jury sentenced them to, with the inadequate information on how they suffered physical and psychological wounds from their military service. The vulnerabilities and difficulties that they expressed as a result of their military service were not properly presented to jury, she added. The number of the new death row sentence dropped this year, continuing its decade-long downward trend. The report found that 22 people received a new death sentence so far in 2025. 2005, that number was 139. The new death sentences were in 8 states: Florida, California, Alabama, Texas, North Carolina, Arizona, Missouri, and Pennsylvania. Prosecutors are pursuing the death penalty and less frequently than 2 decades ago. The report says growing evidence among jurors to impose death, according to Mara. What we see is a consistent with the long-term trends that we have been observing for the past couple of decades, is that the American people is moving away from the use of the death penalty, she said. According to the October 12 poll, Gallup found 52% of Americans are in favor of the death penalty for a person convicted of murder, the lowest since 1972. Now I'm gonna tell you about that percentage, because when I was always opposed to capital punishment, and there was a time when it was over 80% of the American people that supported the death penalty, and I was in that lonely 20% or under 20% of the population that opposed capital punishment. And I hope to God one day that the high courts will look at the death penalty and think how fucked up it is to have it and to have it abolished in all 50 states and all U.S. territories. I oppose capital punishment, so you know that. So anyway, I was going to say there was a couple of more stories I was going to share with you, and I probably could do that at another time. I'm getting a little tired, but I want to say that I thank you all this evening for showing up, and I thank y'all because now I have 1,000 subs, and now the next thing to do is to get up to 2,000. So let's go ahead and start doing what we can to get up to 2,000, folks. So we got a lot of work to do. So all right, I should be back tomorrow. Please press like and comment any way you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the comment. Feel free to share the content on this channel. Feel free to share the content on this channel. And Amendment Absolute, this is my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're in fact reject corporate media. And remember to subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show. Let's now work. $50,000, $100,000, 1 million. Yes, we'll do. Let's work for 1 million subscribers. How's that? Yay! I'm not that great, so. But anyway, I want to, before I go, I do want to thank a couple of people here for helping me out this year. Warren, I want to thank you. You've been a friend. You've been very helpful to my channel. You helped my channel as far as the aesthetics. Same thing with Ken Herrero, who's a one-man band called Smeghead, who does the intro music and outro music for the show. I also want to thank Jimmy Sutherland, who's done the artwork for the intro and the outro for the show. I also want to thank my various guests over the years on the Willie Bragg Show. I'm going to try to remember as many names as I can, but forgive me if I miss out a few. So of course, I'm going to thank Scott Ritter, who gave me 5,000 views. That's the closest thing I had to a viral video. I want to thank Fiorella Isabel. I want to thank the Do Dissonance guys, Russell and Keaton. I want to thank Jen Perlman, who's come on the show several times. I want to thank them all. I want to thank Warren for coming on the show. I want to thank Dwight Welsh for coming on the show. Angel Rivera for coming on the show, Lucy, otherwise known as Blue Moon Red Wine, for coming on the show, Snow Himbo for coming on the show. I could go on and on. Tommy from Tommy Nation Politics, Jamar Jabari for coming on the show. I like to thank, as I said, I like to thank various folks, a lot of folks for coming on here and hanging out with me, and Shane from KRTD Media, thank him for coming on the show. Quite a few folks have been here over the years, help me out, and all. I want to thank who else can I thank? As I said, there's a lot of folks who've been here on the chat line. Game.org. Actually, Game.org came on the show on my birthday. Thank him for coming up on the show. And being here on the chat line, same with Max Sarjay and Miguel and Peace Dub and CBC Voter. Nikki, which I haven't heard from in a while, but I know there's like several time zones over there in the other side of the world. Les Bones, you name it. I remember all of y'all. I remember all of y'all. To Tommy's Diary, I remember her from the early days for coming on. On the chat line. I remember, seeing all y'all here encouraging me, and I appreciate every one of y'all for doing what you did. And yes, Warren said it best. Our community is absolutely fabulous. Yes, absolutely. And shout out goes to Nikki. As I said, all kinds, Kamashwari Kate, from being here, trying to think who else we could think of, over the years, various Chuck UFO, Chuck Intergalactic UFO Show, Catherine Ann McCloskey, Daniel Berry Sports Highlight. I mean, you name it, all been here and appreciating Josh Bradley, Stephanie Shalinsky, William Stodden, JB from the RBN, all of y'all. Hell. He's mad at me. He hates my guts. But you know what? I even enjoy having Nate's Garden, his crazy self here. So, no ill will toward him. He may hate my guts. Don't care. So, here's the thing. We're all in this independent media. We're all on the left. We're all trying to get to the same place. Sound like a religious person. We're all in different denominations. We're headed to the same place. No, seriously, we're headed to the same place. We're trying to have single payer health care. We're trying to get out of these wars. We're trying to have free health care. Free college. We're trying to have a Green New Deal. And I don't mean like the silly kind that AOC talked about, but real environmental policies to clean this planet up. We're trying to put a stop to the murderous ideology of Zionism. We're trying to abolish the death penalty. We're trying to fight for labor rights. We're trying to end racism. We're trying to end homophobia. We're trying to make society better. And and I thank you all for being here. and fighting the good fight. So anyway, I guess I'll conclude to say this. Free and pardon Ed Snowden. That can't be emphasized enough. Free Palestine, which that needs to be the rallying cry for today. And of course, yes, and of course, free healthcare for all. And fight like hell for free speech. And Laney's name was mentioned. So remember, Laney and Warren tomorrow, 11 o'clock, the Undercurrent. So be there or be square. Y'all take care. Thank you all for helping me out. I love you all for doing this for me. This means a lot. And if some of y'all don't have a channel, if some of y'all don't have a job, I mean, you obviously have an account because we're corresponding. But if I'm telling you, it's a great way to just to get shit out of your chest, Just go ahead and start your own channel. You got something you got to rant about it. You don't have to be professional. Look at me. But do what we can, just to reach out, have a conversation with people, make friends, new friends. That's another thing I enjoy about this channel. I made friends, and I'm happy about that. People from around the country. I had no idea who many of y'all. I had no idea who 95% of y'all were almost 6 years ago, and here I am, hanging out with y'all. That makes me a better person for it. So thank you for that. And if any of y'all want to come on my show to have a conversation, just let me know. We will have a conversation. And I will say until next time, even though I don't like Rob Reiner, because Donald Trump was such a bad taste what he did to Rob Reiner, we'll say fuck Donald Trump this time. Okay, folks, y'all have a good night. I will talk to y'all later. I have to get up in a few hours to take care of some urgent business. Bye-bye.